Good day, and welcome to the ISDA Benchmarks Supplement Protocol, solution via ISDA Amend. All participants will be in listen-only mode. Should you need assistance, please signal a conference specialist by pressing the star key followed by 0. After today's presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. To ask a question, you may press star, then 1 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your question, please press star, then 2. Please note this event is being recorded. I would now like to turn the conference over to Graham Bryant to begin. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's Graham Bryant here from ISDA. Rick Sanderlands was supposed to chair this call. He sends his apologies. He had a last-minute family emergency, which meant he couldn't make the call. Thanks, everyone, for dialing in. As you've heard, this is a run-through of the ISDA Benchmark Supplement Protocol and, in particular, the ISDA Amend solution for implementation. I'll hand over shortly to Deepak Sitlani of Linklaters to give a brief background, and then Deepak will in turn pass on to Ming Chung of IHS Markit to run through the ISDA Amend solution. Before I do that, I'll just read a quick competition statement. The purpose of this call is to serve as a forum to discuss regulatory, legal policy, risk and infrastructure issues that will ultimately make the derivatives market safer and more efficient. All market participants are encouraged to participate. The focus of this call will be on the ISDA Benchmark Supplement Protocol as implemented under ISDA Amend. The call will comply strictly with the agenda. All participants are reminded that they all act independently in the market, and each participant will ultimately make its own independent determination with respect to its own business operations. All participants are reminded not to exchange competitive information or convey business strategies. Counsel will interrupt or stop the call if issues come up that should not be discussed. Through participation in the call, participants agree not to use the process to accomplish any anti-competitive goal or use information obtained during the meeting for any anti-competitive purpose. Okay, so as you've heard, the call is being recorded. We hope to get that recording uploaded to the ISDA website, hopefully today, if not latest tomorrow. So that's all I'll say. I will hand over now to Deepak Sitlani of Linklaters just to give a brief background as to the ISDA Benchmark Supplement Protocol. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Graham, and hello, everyone. I should say I'm also joined by Phoebe Coots as well. So what I'll do is I'll just spend a few minutes running through the rationale behind the benchmark supplement itself, because I'm conscious that, particularly for those in APAC, you may not have been as close to the working group discussions on those as others have been. And then I'll just talk very briefly about the background behind some of the structuring on the protocol before handing over to Ming to run through on the ISDA Amend hosting of that protocol. So in terms of why the benchmark supplement has come about, the initial regulatory driver was the European benchmark regulation, and in particular Article 28.2 of that regulation. And in a nutshell, what that requires is for EU supervised entities to have robust written plans in place that effectively deal with a scenario where an index ceases to be available or suffers a material change. And those plans need to be reflected in contracts with clients. And linked to Article 28.2 is another provision, which is Article 35 of the benchmark regulation, which effectively says that to the extent that the authorization or registration of an administrator is not there as per the EU benchmark regulation, then the provisions of Article 28.2 shall apply. And so that effectively means that provisions need to be included in contracts with clients that contemplate the withdrawal or lack of authorization of an administrator, and that effectively leads to an inability to use the benchmark on an ongoing basis. So that was the initial regulatory backdrop or background to the work on the benchmark supplement. Actually, after that work had started, there was an IOSCO statement. So it was the statement on matters to consider in the use of financial benchmarks, which was published earlier this year. And effectively, that statement replicated the requirements of Article 28.2 of the benchmark regulation. There are some subtle scoping differences, but what it did do was effectively globalize the requirements of Article 28.2 of the benchmark regulation. But it did so in a non-binding way. So the IOSCO statement is clearly guidance from IOSCO rather than for mandatory adherence. But what that did mean is that when putting together the supplement, it was felt that it should be done so in a holistic manner. So that is to say, without necessarily directly referring to Article 28.2 of the benchmark regulation. And this was there so that people, even if they were not directly subject to the benchmark regulation, could incorporate the terms of the supplement. And again, this was really driven by the feeling that what the supplement does is enhance the robustness of particular contractual provisions within the benchmark supplement, or within the ISDA library, I should say. So very briefly, the definitional booklets that are covered by the benchmark supplement are the 2006 ISDA definitions, the 2002 equity derivatives definitions, the 1998 FX and currency option definitions, as well as the 2005 ISDA commodity definitions. So those are the booklets that apply. I could spend quite a long time talking about how the supplement itself works, but that isn't the purpose of this webinar. The idea is to really focus on implementation via ISDA amend. So what I will do is talk a little bit about the background to the development of the protocol. So after or towards the end of the project in terms of producing the supplement, we then had to turn our minds to implementation. And initially the idea had been to have the supplement incorporated at confirmation level, so that if you decided to incorporate the supplement, all you had to do was as I say, incorporate the terms within your confirmation. But one roadblock that appeared was in relation to online confirmation platforms, where the feedback that we received was that it would take some time in order to adapt those confirmation platforms in order to incorporate the supplement at confirmation level. So that, and given that Article 28.2 of the benchmark regulation needed to be complied with effect from 1st of January of 2018, we needed to think of another way to allow market participants to adopt the supplement in a more speedy fashion. So we talked about having, for example, automatic updates to the definitional booklet. So all you needed to do was just incorporate the definitional booklet, and that in and of itself incorporated the supplement. But the working group conclusion was that isn't the way to go. And so we ended up having to think about a protocol. And the protocol is aimed at, in the first instance, updating confirmation terms on a go-forward basis. So initially the idea was a little bit contrary to the way most protocols work, because the starting point was to say, from the implementation date, any confirmation or any trade that is entered into that incorporates the booklets, the definitional booklets that I mentioned, will incorporate the terms of the benchmark supplement. And then we had two themes of feedback. One was actually there are some market participants who said that they wouldn't necessarily want to adopt the supplement by way of protocol vis-a-vis all of their trading counterparties. And the view that those market participants took was actually we're happy with the terms of the supplement and we're happy to adhere vis-a-vis EU supervised entities in order to facilitate compliance by those EU supervised entities with the EU benchmark regulation. But we would like to preserve the option not to adopt the supplement vis-a-vis non-EU supervised entities, i.e. vis-a-vis those entities who are not directly subject to the benchmark regulation. So one theme was optionality around range of counterparties. And then another theme that came through was in relation to legacy trades. So having said that the starting point was that the supplement should be adopted by way of protocol only on a go-forward basis, some working group members said, well, actually, it would be quite useful to be able to use the protocol to apply the supplement to our legacy book as well. And that is to an extent in keeping as well with the EU benchmark regulation in particular, because some Q&As that have been put out by the by ESMA basically say that where it is practicable to amend legacy to enhance the fallbacks for index cessation and material modification, then you should do so on a best efforts basis. So then the idea moved to having the protocol extend to legacy transactions. But as I'm sure a number of you know, that whenever you think about amending existing transactions, one of the things that you need to think about is whether or not that amendment does have an impact on margining or clearing obligations. So that is to say, whether or not the mere fact of the amendment renders your trade subject to margin or clearing when it might not otherwise have been subject to those obligations because the trade was entered into before those obligations were phased in. So that then meant that a number of market participants wanted some flexibility around whether or not they apply the supplement to their legacy trades, and that even subdivides into on a per counterparty basis. So for example, you might take the view that under EMIR to apply the supplement to legacy trades doesn't key in or kick in margining or clearing obligations, and so then you might say, okay, I'm happy to elect for my legacy trades to be updated where the regime is EMIR. And similarly, another thought was, well, also it may well be that over time we get sufficient regulatory comfort around this point from different regulators, and so some working group members said, well, I would like the ability not to apply the supplement to legacy trades today, but if I then subsequently take the view or get the right level of regulatory comfort that adopting the supplement for legacy trades doesn't trigger margin or clearing obligations, I would like the ability to effectively change my mind and apply the supplement on a legacy basis. And any election or any application of the supplement to legacy trades necessarily needs both adhering parties to have agreed to that, because clearly if only one party is comfortable with their legacy trades being amended, then it shouldn't be the case that that legacy are amended. So that was effectively another theme or another range of optionality that needed to be built into the protocol. So as I say, that is the optionality really revolves around range of counterparties, as well as whether or not the protocol applies to legacy and go forward trades or go forward trades only. So I'll stop there in terms of background on the protocol, and I'll hand over to Ming to talk about the ISDA amend build, and then if anyone has any questions, we can pick those up at the end. Over to you, Ming.
Hey, thank you, Deepak, for the great intro. So, hi, everyone. I'm Ming Chung, the product manager who looks after the reg and compliance space in APAC for IHS Markit. So just a quick background. Today, I'll be going over our solution for the benchmark supplement solution, which is on Counterparty Manager. So for those who are not very aware of the tool, essentially it's been going for around 11 years. It's really a highly secure environment for managing your relationship data with your trading counterparties. So it started off being able to upload and share your common KYC onboarding documentation with your counterparties with extra logic built in for kind of tax W-8 forms, CRS forms, validation of that. And we've since introduced our partnership with ISDA to create an extra module within the tool that allows you to load and share your regulatory representations or elections on the tool and digitally transmit that to an entire network of your financial counterparties, all online in a secure environment. The network contains over 12,000 customers. That includes around 500 sell-side firms across all financial institutions. So there's a whole range of asset managers, hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, regional banks, as well as corporates, all using the tool. Essentially, if you have derivatives or repapering requirements, you can use this free of charge to provide that and exchange that with your financial counterparties and have golden source in one location. So I'll just dive a little bit more into the detail here. So this next slide really just represents a little bit of information about the roadmap of our partnership with ISDA. So as you can see here, the inception was in 2010, and the first representation or module that we created within there was really around the Dodd-Frank Protocol 1 and Protocol 2 questionnaires that came into play as a result of the Dodd-Frank, repapering exercise of the master agreements. We've since then really grown, as you can see, very steadily with different regimes that have come into play as a result of the changing regulatory landscape. So some of you may be familiar with EMIR requirements, classification requirements, clearing classification, reporting regimes as well that have since been introduced on the tool. And more recently, we've had the variation margin, initial margin items that have come into play, as well as ISDA protocol. And what we're looking to deliver in early December is really this is the benchmark supplement protocol. So one of the unique things around this relationship is really, as a firm for yourselves, it provides you a single secure location and a source where you can have a roadmap to provide a lot of this information. A lot of these regulatory regimes that come into play that require you to make elections and so forth utilize a lot of similar information. You're likely to need to exchange common information such as the legal name of your entity, the address of your entity, legal entity identifiers, and certain elections. So essentially being digitalized, it allows you to reuse a lot of the information that you may have pre-entered into other regimes and be able to benefit and make compliance much easier. You'll also have the audit history of who you're permissioned, and especially it's a utility for the industry. So essentially you have the industry participants and your trading counterparties that you can permission with a single button on the system. So to drill down into the actual solution itself, it's very straightforward on the system. So it's really broken down into 3 single steps. But essentially, it's broken down into 3 steps. So as Deepak mentioned, the importance of using the digital system is really to be able to provide you the option of who you wish to permission and elect this information again to, and also your election surrounding either choosing the legacy trades or new trades going forward here. Essentially, the 3 steps are, we've designed a GUI that allows to walk you through 3 simple steps. The first stage is to really select your entities that you wish to make applicable. So if you are a larger firm with multiple entities, you can bulk create or select one or more of your entities that are applicable. Then you will move on to the second phase, which is really selecting the counterparties that you wish to make these elections appropriate to. Again, we have most of the industry participants on there, so you simply need to select the counterparties' legal names that you wish to make this election to. And then the third step is very straightforward. Simply, you're making an election for the selected entities and your counterparties' entities as to whether you want new trades only going forward from the implementation date, or you wish to select the new and existing trades. So yes, essentially making the election for that combination of your entities and your counterparty entities that you wish to send over. So once that is done, you will have a dashboard that will be able to see information surrounding your elections that you've made and against which counterparties. So what the dashboard will have is essentially a statistics slide that will show you how many elections you've made with how many counterparties and the match statistics surrounding has your counterparty loaded also their elections. The system will also match these elections, providing you with clear clarity as to what the result is. As Deepak mentioned, it's really around both sides having to submit and then also looking at the responses. So the match is more on the conservative side, which is essentially what would happen is if you both make an election on new trades only, the result would be new. Same with legacy. If both select legacy and new trades, then it would be legacy matched. Essentially, if one side selects new and your counterparty selects new and legacy, then essentially it would fall to the more conservative approach, which would be the new match. So the system allows you to actually see all of that on the system against all your counterparties, and you'll have a single source that you be able to share with your internal teams, and it's all fully locked down there. So yeah, essentially everything will be, so you have bulk download features as well that you can basically download and keep all of these stored in your internal systems. And finally, if we move back on, Counterparty Manager really allows you to concentrate and store all of this information in one place. So as we mentioned, really it's free for the buy side, so you can utilize this technology for free. We have onboarding and fast sign-up online as well. So essentially, you just need to click, and we have our onboarding and client services teams that will reach out to you to get set up. And typically, the onboarding process is a simple, 1 or 2 hours, a couple of hours, and you'll be set up and ready to go. We also have 24/7 client services that could walk you through either via phone, email, or online chat should you have any troubleshoot or any issues with this. And finally, I guess you have full audit trail of all the information on there. So I think that's all I wanted to share. I'll move this back on to Deepak. Should you have any questions, then we'll be happy to address them.
Great, thanks, Ming. So I don't know if we can open up the line for any questions.
Yes, we will now begin the question and answer session. To ask a question, you may press star, then 1 on your telephone keypad. If you are using a speakerphone, please pick up your handset before pressing the keys. To withdraw your question, please press star, then 2. At this time, we will pause momentarily to assemble our roster. Our first question comes from Regis Kaforn with SGCIB. Please go ahead, Regis.
Hello, everyone. I just want one confirmation. If Party A chose to apply the supplement to legacy trades and new trades, but one of its counterpart, Party B, select only new trades, it means that automatically the benchmark will apply to new trades, and if Party want to discuss about the legacy trades, they will be able to come back to the application later and to modify their choice in ISDA amend or not.
Hi, Regis. It's Deepak here. I can take that one. So you're right that if Party A has elected for legacy and new, and Party B has only elected for new, then under the protocol, the supplement will only be adopted for new trades. But if Party A and Party B have a subsequent discussion, then they decide that actually they should apply the supplement to legacy trades, then all Party B has to do is to change its election vis-a-vis Party A and effectively say that it wants to adopt the protocol or adopt the supplement for legacy trades. Then upon that happening, Party A and Party B are effectively matched on their election to apply the protocol to legacy trades, and that means that at that point the legacy trades are amended.
Okay, and is there a limited time to do so, or?
No, there isn't a limited time to do so. I mean, as with all ISDA protocols, there is an ability for ISDA to close the protocol, and if it does close the protocol, then there will be a period of time after which the ability to change that legacy election is also closed. But that, I think, at the moment is just a technical point because there isn't any real intention or current intention for this to close this protocol. So there is, I think, a relatively open-ended freedom to do this. But I think you can change. It is worth saying that you can change your legacy election in both directions. So, for example, if you have elected not to apply legacy, you can change to apply the protocol to legacy trades, and also vice versa. So if you have initially elected to adopt the supplement for legacy trades, you can change your mind and adopt it for only new trades. But that is so long as you haven't matched on your legacy election with a particular counterparty, because as soon as you have both elected for the supplement to apply to legacy trades, then at that point you can't reverse that election because, of course, your trades have already been amended.
Okay, thank you.
Our next question comes from Navin Desor with HSBC. Please go ahead.
Oh, hi, Deepak. Actually, my question was exactly the same as Regis's, so we can move on to the next question.
Great. Thanks, Navin.
Okay, is there any more questions in the queue?
Our next question comes from Mun Bin Chan with Standard Chartered Bank. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Just wanted to ask, in terms of adhering to the protocol, does that mean that we have to sort of list down all the names of our counterparties and then submit it together with our adherence, or we will select from the names which are already in the list? I presume it's the former rather than latter.
It's a good question. Yeah, go for it, Ming.
Yeah, sorry. There's essentially bulk upload and download options on there. So as a bank, you essentially get a list of all a report multiple times a day, similar to the rest of your ISDA protocols. And essentially, you can download a list that will show you all the counterparties that has elected against you, and essentially you can bulk upload your elections against those counterparties should you wish, or predetermine and make those in advance as well. Both options are possible.
Thank you. Sorry, if you don't mind, a second question. You mentioned the adherence is free for the buy side. What's the cost for the others?
It's Deepak here. I was just going to say that we should be clear in terms of the kind of cost of using a ISDA amend versus cost of adhering to the protocol. So I think just on the adherence side, I think there will be the standard ISDA charge of $500 for all, and that I think is distinct from any costing on the ISDA amend side.
Our next question comes from Luis Felix with BNP Paribas. Please go ahead.
Hi. So in terms of matching with clients on ISDA, is there any sort of initiative to encourage clients or to invite clients that aren't currently present in ISDA? Oh, in the ISDA amend tool, sorry.
Yep. Hi. Ming here. Essentially, we're always doing kind of awareness sessions with clients, but this is more of a bank-driven initiative, but we do have outreach tools available on IHS Markit Counterparty Manager should you wish to leverage the tool to outreach to clients for these particular requests, but that would be a separate offering from this.
Okay, thank you.
It's Deepak here as well. The only thing I would add to that as well is that there is recognition that not everyone uses the ISDA amend platform, and so the protocol contemplates adherence both via ISDA amend and on a paper basis. So that means that you do not have to be on the ISDA amend platform in order to adhere to the protocol, although of course there are obvious benefits with being on that platform.
Okay, so is it feasible for us to use the tool to invite clients to use the tool, or is that something that we would do internally and separately?
Yeah, the inviting, as I mentioned, we do have a function that allows you to invite in, but that would be a slightly separate offering that can allow you that functionality. But essentially, most will communicate off the tool. But essentially, for your buy side, there's no charges of for most of your buy sides to load up and connect or sign up to the system. And I guess the value really is that it's a single place for them to manage not just this one particular regulation, but all of these common ones that are available as well that may be affecting them.
Thank you.
Thank you. As a reminder, if you would like to enter into the question queue, you may press star, then 1. At this time, We have no further questions, and I would like to turn the call over to Graham Bryan for any closing remarks.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for dialing in. Hopefully that has been a useful summary of the ISDA Amend platform and the implementation of the protocol. Do feel free to follow up with me or Rick Sandlands, who'll be back in the office soon if you have any follow-on questions. If there's nothing further, I think we can close the call there. Thanks, Deepak and Ming as well.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
The conference has now concluded. Thank you for attending today's presentation, and you may now disconnect.